Always remember that these videos are just for me. They're done extemporaneously, usually on a subject, and then I just go from there. I have an idea and I just go from there. I like to talk extemporaneously because, as in the previous talk, I had a hiddush, a new idea, during the explication of what I was saying. A new relationship came to me. And this is my entire opus, that in the explication of something, a new relationship occurs. As you know, I think that the Kabbalah, especially Sefer Yetzirah, the concept of the golem, and its relation to the zelem, is a perfect metaphor and entry point for virtual reality and augmented reality, and in general, any mediated reality. It's how one thinks. How one thinks is the differences between people in this earth. The world is already perfect. It's just that there are different levels of perfection. It's the same thing as I've said with tennis players. There are 128 players at the Wimbledon or the US Open. All of them are winners. But even after the first day, there are 64 left. Half the field is eliminated in the first round. It's not that they're not perfect or highly elevated, but there's gradations even in Olam Haba, or even in Gan Eden. Some people get greater pleasures, and that's what I'm trying to bring out here. The real deal is to get pleasure within the body for these 70 years or 80 years of life. And the person who gets the higher pleasures, the more sophisticated pleasures, is the individual who gets the most out of life. And that's what all these speeches are about. That is what Kabbalah is about, and that's what Judaism is about. It's a methodology of thought. They've always said that of the Talmud. But there's a deeper aspect in even Talmudic thought. Talmudic thought never really brings this dichotomy of left and right back into a third force, into a center. Talmudic thought leads you to the water, but doesn't drink it. And so it takes a leap. That leap, by the way, is called the leap of faith. That is true emunah. True emunah is to leave the world behind as you progress into this rarefied atmosphere of total pleasure and ratzon and will. These are the three heads of Keter, Bradla. The idea of emunah, the idea of ta'anug, the idea of ratzon, faith, pleasure, and will. I didn't make up those terms that are associated with the three heads. There's a very, very deep issue about the law of three and how it relates to the law of seven, and how three is the underlying basis of this law of seven. Anyway, that's why I'm giving this kind of review after so many hundreds of videos. It's kind of like a depiction of where I am. When I want to say where I am, I also want to say where I am emotionally. Remember, this is a talk to my mirror image. This is not a talk to you. This is a talk to me. I'm giving the talk into a mirror image. When you see it, you're seeing this mirror image. That's fine if it works for you. But the person that I'm concerned about is how it works for me. This cosmic double of mine, this Zelim of mine, and in a certain sense, is this not a golem that you're looking at? You're looking at the picture of me giving an extemporaneous talk to myself to find out more about me. Another thing of these videos is that I've kind of just done the pictures of myself. I actually believe not to even show pictures. But I've shown pictures of myself. Strange. There must be something there that I'm not totally aware of as of yet. I've said this metaphor before because I listened to a rabbi years ago, and he said that he was just a link in the chain. As I do these videos, I see that I was going to say no more than a link in the chain. But actually, that's amazing that I'm a link in a chain. This chain goes on forever, and I'm just a link. What you're seeing is what I'm permitted to have as pleasure, not as responsibility, but as pleasure to myself, to be a link in the chain and nothing more. If I feel myself a link of the continuum of the Jewish people, quite frankly, that's enough for me. And that's how I feel right now, in this little afternoon, evening, this is an evening, Muse. Amusement to myself. Amusing. All these things with the muse. The muse is always taken as a feminine. The muse is always the Shekinah, the Hey, the letter Hey. I implore you, if you're interested in Judaism, learn the Hebrew alphabet. Encapsulated within the Hebrew alphabet is everything. You don't have to know any more than the Yud, and its spelling is Yud Vav Dalet, or the Aleph in its dictation as Yud Vav Yud, or Yud Vav Dalet in the form of an Aleph. You don't need much more than that to really understand, or to understand that the letter Hey comes out of the letter Yud, or that even in the Yud there are three little markings, a dot on top, a middle, and then a lower. So even in the Yud there's a threeness that's expressed in the Yud Vav Dalet. That threeness in the Yud itself are the upper three Sephirot of Keter Hokmah Bina. Then this Vav is the sixth Sephirot of Zeir Anpin. And then the Dalet is the Malkuths, the Nekuva of the Zeir Anpin, the poor, the Dal. So even in the letter Yud itself, spelled out as Yud Vav Dalet, you have the 10 Sephirot. These are amazing things. This is what leads one on to higher levels of consciousness. So this is actually a motivational speech for myself, of course, to higher levels of consciousness. And one of the methodologies I spur myself on into and with a higher level of consciousness is doing these self-ease, so to speak, these self-videos for myself, of myself, as a spurring myself on to greater heights within. And if somebody wants to witness my progression, I am depicting it for them in these videos, starting with my consciousness of two-ness and moving forward up until today. So this is a little bit of a retrospect, and hopefully it helps me as I progress along the path of even more pleasure within Gan Eden, because as you know, I believe this is Olam Haba. I believe this is Gan Eden. I believe that we are perfect and that we only move from perfect to more perfect, or even less perfect, but we're always within perfection, and that there was no fall, and it's only a point of view of consciousness. And that's why I welcome the application of some of these words into mediated reality, and use the Sefer Yetzirah with its letters and understanding of structure of the alphabet as a means to help us progress within this modern world.